Hi, I'm Justin Mormon.
And I'm Katie Thornton, and this is the Re-Education of Schools podcast,
where we have open, honest conversations about how to better understand social-emotional learning, trauma-informed care, the whys behind student behavior, and how to help kids navigate it all as they go through school and life. All right, welcome back to our next episode, the top educational research of 2025. Before we jump in, just a reminder, we would love for you to be able to give us a review and share this podcast with others. It helps us get the information out there and helps people find us a little bit better, helps us keep the conversation going. So we would love for you to be able to do that, and we appreciate it when you do. So the top educational research of 2025. Every year we've kind of become a tradition. We've been around long enough to have traditions.
I love it.
So that's kind of fun.
I know.
Every year at the start of the next calendar year, we tend to have an episode that goes over Edutopia's top 2025 research articles from the previous year. And so we're doing that again. Josh always joins us on the podcast for that.
Back.
Happy New Year.
So he's here with us now. And yeah, we're going to kind of jump in. We'll go through, there are 10 articles, and we'll kind of talk about each of them just a little bit, not super in depth, but hopefully as we go through them, you'll have something that catches your eye, catches your ear, I guess, and hopefully it's something that you want to look into a little bit more, might learn a little something, and hopefully it's an enjoyable episode to listen to. And hopefully you don't hate it, right? That would be a weird thing to hope.
Yeah, that would be
so weird. We don't hope that. All right, so we're going to jump in. First article is in memoriam. It's over for cell phones, talking a little bit about how schools are cracking down on cell phone usage or even the ability to have cell phones for students in the schools. Anything jump out at you guys? What were your thoughts on the article? Ready, go.
Yeah. So I will say at the district that I'm at, they, at the beginning of the second semester, they did ban cell phones in the high school. And I don't know a lot about, I'm not there, so I don't know all, really the impact of it. But one of the things that I was talking to one of the other staff member that is at the high school had just mentioned the conversations during the lunchroom. It's not all the students with their heads down looking at their cell phones, that they're actually engaging in conversations and talking. So, I thought that was interesting and topical to what my district is experiencing. But I think it's something that we probably all kind of thought would be beneficial. I know technology is a big part of how students learn, but, just being able to, I think the thing that stood out is, even though they may not have their phones right in front of them, but if it's in their pocket, they may be thinking about it and not paying full attention to what's instruction, or there may be some, and I think I'm guilty of that too. If there's like a text message you're waiting for, or, you could be maybe thinking about that. So that kind of eliminates that, knowing that I'm not going to be able to check my cell phone until I get home or get on the bus. So,
big deal.
Yeah.
I just thought these kids need to get back to passing notes.
Yeah.
Again.
What fun was that?
Yeah.
Increase their handwriting's going to skyrocket. It's going to be so
we'll
good
get to that later, too.
I feel like we survived just fine of just passing notes to each other in class. But I think this correlates to the research that's out with the Anxious Generation and all the buzz that's gone around with that book. There's so much mental health and anxiety around cell phones. We really have got to separate and disconnect our kids. And we need to be good stewards and models of that as teachers to kind of also put away the phone during the school day. Yeah. So it makes complete sense.
Yeah, I mean, there was no real surprises from the actual research from the article, right? Like it was higher academic scores, lower accounts of peer conflict, all those kind of things. It was all things that you'd expect. Yep. And so it's hard. There was a lot of pushback, statewide when they're like, you've got to have cell phones out. It's hard to actually implement it, because they had gotten to be such a thing. I would imagine, especially at the high school level, but even going all the way down to the elementary level, we see it, right? We see kids with either phones, quite a few of them, or smart watches have been a big thing, right? That you have to have, some kind of regulation around. So again, no huge surprises, and just know it's potentially, schematically, it's kind of a headache to try to figure out how that works. But yeah, in the end, cell phones, you're better off without them in school for sure. All right, second article was cracking the code of math word problems.
Yeah, I went back to the science of reading and just thought a lot of this kind of makes sense. We're teaching kids how to actually get information out of word problems. It's not just about looking for the add or subtract language. We're actually getting them to be good stewards of reading and using those science of reading strategies to analyze and take notes, and then going back and looking for actually what the context of the problems are. It makes total sense to me again.
Yeah, I think, my background was in special education, especially, around the 4th grade level. And, that's a strategy that I would use with students that maybe had some deficits in executive functioning, ADHD, and, knowing that being able to take a paragraph of words and decode it to figure out how they're going to solve a problem, they need those strategies. And that was something that we would always work on, teaching those strategies using, organizers or charts, and drawings to help, is a good strategy, and it works for all students, especially when you're starting to learn how to solve word problems.
Yeah. I thought for me, the thing that stuck out that was a little bit different was the working memory piece of it. If you are out there, and we don't have time to get into it now, maybe we'll do an episode on it, right? Yeah. But if you're out there now and you don't know a lot about working memory, for students or just for people, I guess, in general, really take a look at working memory, and it's going to give you, once you start diving into it at all, you're going to really understand some of these word problems. We're asking kids to hold a lot of information in their head at one time if they're not using some way to kind of annotate a word problem or write some things down. So it's super important because it's just impossible to do. For most people, it's impossible to hold so much information in their head at once. That is required. Plus, there's a lot of information given in the word problems that isn't pertinent to the actual solving of the problem
on purpose. Yeah.
And kids are having to hold that in their head as well.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot. Working memory is something to work towards learning more about if you're out there and you haven't learned much about it. Okay, the next article, the microbreaks breakthrough.
Yeah, this is my favorite.
Yeah. Well, you go first since it's your favorite.
I feel like we were back on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like. Everybody started to just start talking once.
Okay. So basically, it's looking at that brain breaks directly improve student attention and performance. I feel like for 3 years on this podcast, we've been harping that. So research has come through that we were onto something.
we were the ones that came up with it.
Yeah. Well, I think the micro breaks. We've talked a lot about not taking long breaks in class and making it like smaller things as you embed it quietly into your part of the rhythm of your classroom. I think this article just really affirmed that taking just a quick couple minute pause between those transitions in your classroom is actually dramatically boosting kids' performance overall.
And we're not talking about like a 3-minute break after 45 minutes of instruction. We're talking 90 seconds after 10 minutes of instruction is what the study did. So I think that the thought of having breaks and transitions into your instruction has always been there, but we're talking about 10 minutes tops with a 90-second, maybe reflective. One of the breaks they used was just closing your eyes, listening to your breathing, and then getting back into it. But there's the data says that it increased academic performance. So, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, and not like a little bit. It was like by 76% improved scores overall. And so being able to have just those 90-second breaks, like you said, Josh, every 10 minutes. It also referenced a 10-minute break like halfway through a 90-minute class. Sometimes we have, even in our school, we have some pretty long
80-minute
block classes. I mean, and so to your point, sometimes we think, we'll work for, 65 minutes and then take a 10-minute break there towards the end and then have 5 minutes to get ourselves resettled before we move on. Actually isn't nearly as effective as if we were breaking it up somewhere in between and then jumping back in. Even like mid, topic is okay to then jump back into it and keep going. So it's hopefully encouraging to hear if it's not something you have going right now. For sure, something that maybe you should do. I think of high school teachers and middle school teachers who have pretty quick blocks.
Yeah.
Super useful because it would be easy for me to think there's not enough time to have a break in my class. We don't have enough time. hey, 90 seconds, minute and a half. You set yourself a timer and let it work that way. I think it's a good idea. Worth trying. It's probably not going to hurt anything. And actually the research says it's going to help. So I think that's something to look at moving forward.
Yeah.
All right. 4th article, early handwriting leads to much better reading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I thought was it makes perfect sense, right? As students are writing out letters, writing out words, that's extra practice when they're identifying letters, identifying words, as opposed to just pecking on a keyboard.
Which I guess, not to cut you off, but like, I guess that's ultimately, we weren't even saying what the article was. I guess that's really what the article was, right? Kids that were actually writing and practicing the letters.
Yeah.
Ultimately, then when they had to go back and read those same kind of letters, they were doing a much better job.
Right. And it affects the motor memory, visual recognition, and then phonetic processing as they're going through that writing process more so than just typing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're looking at the science of reading. What we know about the science of reading is as we're building the handwriting's actually building those new neural pathways and solidifying that letter recognition and reading skills. And again, it's a dramatic, twice as it accurately, more than as often as 64% of the time compared to the 28% for their peers that were typing. So it is like a dramatic increase with handwriting. I know our state has mandated handwriting now, and we are teaching that, but they should. The research says, yes, kids are performing well and have better literacy skills if we teach them to write, and we have to be super mindful of that in the age of technology.
Yeah.
I think we're at a real weird spot with handwriting and technology and everything else. We're trying to figure it out like real time. And so it's good to have articles like this and research being done like this, because there's a real combination of, we need to get kids ready. We do like a bunch of state testing on computers, and they're expected to type out paragraphs at the elementary level. And so they kind of need to know how to type with some kind of efficiency, but are we really robbing them of reading improvement by not having them handwriting stuff out?
Counterproductive, right?
It's a real weird spot to be in, I think, just in history, I guess, as far as teachers go. But because what is best, and how do we kind of do both and in a way that's the most effective? How do we maximize that? And it's not easy to do. I don't think it's an easy, there's not some like real quick, easy answer. So, but it is interesting to start reading some of the research and maybe adjusting practice or being really intentional about how you use either of those things. All right, 5th article. Man, we're cruising through. I love it. When to resist the urge to help students.
I think about this just in general as parenting, behavior management, anything. We don't let our children fail. We don't build resilience, grit, stamina. I know there's been lots of talk and research through this, but this just really solidifies the idea that we are not actually, we're doing our kids a disservice by helping too much. We have actually just started going over with some of our special education teams about the prompting of hierarchy, that we really are building towards independence always for kids. There's something which is called a productive struggle. So we need to shift or move down the continuum of their zonal proximal development to close those progression gaps. And if we're not letting them try and figure out how they failed and why, those critical thinking pieces, we're never going to shift kids' learning. So as much as it's easier to give them the answer or to make it easier for them to avoid the behavior or whatever, we're actually not helping kids. So so that's basically what the article was saying. Like, we have to let kids struggle to a point to kind of figure out how to get better scores.
And I think, I have talked a lot with some of our classroom aides over the years and my role now. And, it comes from a place where they want to help students and they want students to be successful. But what they're missing is kind of what you brought up, is it isn't making them successful. It's creating a more restrictive environment where they're not able to fail. And then how do I do better the next time? Or what do I need to do? And think about those skills individually, as opposed to just someone coming in and doing it for them. So it comes from a place where they see a student struggling and they're going to go over and help them. But that struggle is part of the process of learning.
Yeah, not new. This is not super new concept, right? Like, we've had it branded a bunch of different ways, but we've got resiliency that's talked about a lot. We've got grit, right? It was a real hot word to throw around, term to throw around there for a while. Still is to some extent. I think this is that same idea. Like we've got students that have to be able to go through hard times, whether that's learning math or whether that's learning how to interact through a tough moment that happened at the playground, whether that's figuring out, the ins and outs of not making whatever team you wanted to make, that in high school. There's just a lot of things that we want to, in the name of not having somebody go through something that seems tough, swoop in and save. And really, it just robs them of the ability to actually handle those things on their own later on in life. I think we've seen that a lot with, like, when we talk about restorative practice. If you want to go like the trauma-informed kind of behavioral side of things, that idea of restorative practices and leading kids through. So sometimes you have to teach them how to intentionally have like a hard, awkward conversation to come out on the other side and figure out how to do something. It's the same thing with math. It's the same thing with reading. It's the same thing with any kind of academics. We have to show them at times how to go through the really hard part, even if we don't get something right, to help them know how to figure it out better later on, and just to build that resilience up. So it's super important. Article number 6, AI takes a big bite out of special ed paperwork.
I think I would love to hear, because you're...
I talk third. Yeah. So that's the system we've set up here. So
and then we decide in the moment who talks first.
Yeah, every time.
I was going to say, Josh and I are no longer writing IEPs. We certainly oversee them. I know there's some playing around with some AI tools for writing goals and things. I've not done it. Interested to see if, feedback-wise, what your thoughts are. They're saying there's no difference in quality of goals, or...
Yeah, ultimately that's what the article is saying,
says,
right?
Yeah, we should be doing it. There's a lot, as you know, if you're in special education, there's an enormous amount of paperwork that you do, and very detailed paperwork, specifically with lots of timelines and deadlines. Josh and I spent years overseeing things like that. Yeah. So I don't know. I've not played around with it to have like an opinion on it either way. I don't know if you have any feedback from it.
Yeah, I haven't written an IEP in years. No, I haven't messed with it too much in that regard. I guess the thing that I think of when I think of AI and how it can be so useful, certainly in writing, I'm sure it can come up with goals. Well, it can. That's what the research said. They almost indistinguishable amount of like difference, if not AI maybe wrote them a little bit better more compliantly. So there's that aspect of it. I think more so to me, what is interesting is how much data has to be collected. There are a lot of things that aren't the human aspect of special education, right? That you could have AI do, and it would really streamline things because you don't have to do maybe all of the tracking of things, all of the. When you're tracking, maybe you're doing some data entry, but like then it's kind of evaluating all of this stuff. You could actually really utilize AI in some ways that allows you to really do the human part of it that AI can't. Right. Which is having like the one-on-one or like small group, like the relational time, the academic, focus time with students that the computer can't do. And you can buy yourself more time by having AI maybe jump in on some of this stuff. I think overall, and again, this isn't, I'm not even close to an expert, but I know that you can have AI start to learn like your style of writing, your style of how you put things together by feeding it what you've done in the past. Yeah. My goodness, like you could really streamline some of the things that take a lot of time for you to write, but that are, you hate to say generic, that's not what I mean, but there are a lot of things that are inside of any official document that we kind of become a little bit repetitive on, or at least that follow the same kind of patterns, even if the data itself is different. But we could start having AI plug a lot of that stuff in and just kind of generate a pretty complete template that then we just adjust to make sure that it is actually individualized for the kid, and then to collect the data and analyze the data. It could be really useful. And so I think it could save the time, and it really then maximizes the time that you get to actually be with the students. Yeah, and that is the important part.
And I have been doing a lot with AI this past year, and in my previous role and even in my current role, we have my last district, we were looking at AI programs to assist with IEP documentation, more so with progress monitoring. Yeah. But actually the package comes with those tools that help compliant IEP writing. But yeah, so we know it needs to be individualized. But,
absolutely.
But there's also things that the state tells us that it has to be aligned with the data from the evaluation. It has to be aligned with the finite amount of standards that the student is learning, right? So the individual part is, how do we scaffold a particular goal or a particular skill? And then what skills are we targeting? Well, we can have AI take a look at that the evaluation and find out what is the deficits, and then also what's the priority. What skill are we going to work on, or what combination of skills are we going to work on? And as you pointed out, it's going to make us more efficient as we're writing IEPs. Yeah. The important part, the part that AI can't do, is those instructional times, that specially designed instruction, and getting that student towards the goal that perhaps AI assisted in writing. Yeah. But I think it's a great tool, but adults and staff need to know how to use AI. It isn't just, hey, write a goal for this student. It's a lot more involved with it, and I think that's something that AI is going to be here regardless if we want it or not, and we need to learn how to use it, and use it so it produces things that are best for our students.
Yeah.
So.
Katie, anything else to add?
No, I'm interested to see where we're playing with AI for a lot of other different aspects of our life. I think we continue to evaluate balance. You can't supplement the human experience with technology, so I think it's always good to kind of figure out both.
Yeah.
Sometime.
Yeah. All right. 7th article, blissed out kids. Katie, do you want to give a little quick review of what this one was?
Yeah, I'm excited that this made the list.
Yeah.
Because I push this a lot, but 30 minutes of daily recess is not enough to keep elementary students relaxed and ready for schoolwork. So there is some actually legislation in our state of Ohio to increase recess time or to ask for two. The article actually supports it. I don't know how we're going to fit in all this stuff. The kids are going to be with us till 7 o'clock at night. But they're saying 30 to 45 minutes daily recess during academics is really the prime time that we should be adding additional recess time. I push this a lot in our school. Brain breaks. The research is super clear before state testing. The kids should be out playing at recess and then come and take their test. Our teachers are really good practice of doing that. It's amazing what fresh air and body movement and breaks, and it aligns with all the neuroscience. I'm not surprised by this one.
Yeah. So the way that they were able to measure through this research was pulling strands of hair and checking it for cortisol levels. Yeah. And they noticed that it dropped during longer daily recesses, which means that, and the article said, the students are chill, right? And we know, you all talk about it, when students are regulated, they're able to learn more, and this increases their ability to stay regulated throughout the day. And it aligns with that, the earlier article about taking microbreaks. Yeah. Like the outcome, academic outcome, even though there isn't instruction involved with these practices, but the outcome for academic success is higher because students are able to learn. Just because you're up there for 90 minutes teaching kids doesn't mean that it's effective. Yeah. So. Yeah,
absolutely. Great. I think especially for like middle schools, high schools, this is an important thing to kind of recognize. We obviously are all kind of an elementary world, but I think there can be, depending on the district that you're in, where you're at, there can be a spot where you hit middle school and you're like, well, now it's just, let's just burn you through classes, period after period after period. And there's not really time for breaks. Obviously you've got lunch, but outside of that, there's not really a whole lot of time for any kind of coordinated break, where students can be out and about or maybe get outside or anything like that. I think it's important. I mean, it obviously research has said a lot about that over a number of years, not just now, but something to think about if you're a middle school or high school administrator, teacher. How can you kind of incorporate some of this overall? And I did think that one of the things I liked was that it wasn't like a survey, it wasn't like, kids seem to do better. Yeah. To your point, Katie, when you were talking about like, well, I don't know when we're going to fit everything in because we're going to have kids till 7 o'clock, kind of what Josh said. Is actually we won't have to have kids as long. What we're going to find, what we would seem to find, is that kids will learn better in a smaller period of time because they have had the breaks that they have had. So in the exact same amount of time, day-wise, we can like find ways to carve out the time they need to be able to have time to relax, time to have fun, time to play, time to interact with each other. that actually increases how much they're learning and retaining during the times that they are in academic classes. Very quickly, I'll say in our program, we've kind of talked about this a lot at different times, but like in the program I'm running, like that we see this. Like we've gone from a model at times where it was like, hey, we're going to have a self-contained room that we're doing all of the teaching, to switching that to like, hey, kids are going to be out integrated into the general education classrooms, even though it's kind of some extreme situations, right? And what we found was that even as we've had them in those general education settings, smaller amounts of time than their peers, and then allowing them times to come back and kind of disengage and have whatever break is best for them, however that works best for them individually, that actually, like, we've seen test scores consistently go up.
Yep.
We've seen students make significant progress that has little to do with like my direct educational involvement. It has way more to do with, in my opinion, and from experientially, has way more to do with my efforts and my team's efforts to keep kids in a regulated window of tolerance kind of place, right?
Yeah.
That I think then that's not true just of students that are in special education or that are in an extreme, kind of intense unit of some sort. That's true of every kid. If we can provide those breaks where they can kind of like disengage and then re-engage, come back, they're actually able to retain a lot more. And so that's experientially, I think this also makes a lot of sense based off of what I've seen over the years.
Yeah.
All right, Article 8, a final word on the value of relationships. Josh, you want to say what this one was about? Sorry, I should have been doing this the whole time. Yeah. I only learned by Article 7. Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit what this is about?
So what the article says is trust increases engagement, risk-taking from our students, and persistence too. It improves academic outcomes for our students. It's something that I don't think was a big surprise to any of us sitting at the table. And it just kind of reaffirms what the importance of what you two speak of and how our connections with our students is so big, to build that trust and for students to perform academically better. So I think, great, no surprise, but.
Yeah, I thought this held down again things that we've been saying for the past 3 years. This was a survey that people filled out. They followed up with people, and that sense of belonging and community. If kids do not trust you, they don't feel comfortable or safe to learn. They're constantly in that defensive dysregulation state. They are not going to be able to learn. So the relationships comes before rigor, is what the article saying, that the relationships is the most important thing that you can do with kids. And we continue to harp on it. So
yeah, and we were just at a training recently where we were saying the same thing. Everybody can get defensive when anybody talks about building relationships, myself included. When they're like, well, you should build a relationship with that kid. Sometimes people want to like punch somebody in the face when they say that, right? Because you're like, obviously I'm trying to build relationships with kids. I think it's important to just a quick reminder, and we have episodes about this from before. Just a quick reminder. Some kids need just the, hey, how are you doing? You play baseball, right? Don't you have 2 dogs? And that's all it takes. And the kid's like, I'm bought into you. You have a great relationship with me. Just be aware that that's not every kid. When we're talking about building relationships, that means something different for every kid you got coming in. So some kids, can be super superficial, and that kid's bought into you for life. And down the road, they're going to be like, that was my favorite teacher. And you're like, I only really knew him so much. Then some kids, it's got to be like a real purposeful, concerted effort to like find a way to connect with that kid. Those are probably your toughest kids and probably the kids that you have the least natural desire to maybe build a deep relationship with. But that's what you're going to have to do to get that to happen relationally. So just something to keep in mind. It doesn't just mean something that's same across the board.
And you have to work extra hard sometimes to change the student's perception of what school is and what teachers are and what their role is in their lives. Yeah, so it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, it does, for sure. But important, obviously.
Very important, yeah.
All right, Article 9. Teaching might be one of the most complicated jobs in the world. Everybody out there is like, absolutely. Katie, what was this one kind of about? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, they were looking at pre-service. This is something we've talked about before, pre-service teachers, about all the things that we teach them. And preparing them to be educators, and we don't really prepare them.
Yeah.
Because really there's theory and then there's actually practice.
Right.
And then what the article is saying is that we don't spend enough time on the practicality end of it. It was interesting. They talked a lot about practicing with mentorships and that kind of stuff. I think as a teacher education program, we really got to beef up our mentoring in that year one, almost like it's someone's primary job. And I think some districts are set up that way where they have instructional coaches in there to work with those primary teachers. But what a hard job to come in and not really understand how to implement curriculum, classroom management your first year, figuring out that the interdisciplinary relationships with colleagues, understanding what your boss or your administrator wants from you, parents that maybe don't really care it's your first year. They're going to be just as tough on you as not. There's so much of this other interdisciplinary stuff that we take on as educators that you cannot prep for, and we do not do a good job prepping for in those pre-service programs. And so I think that's what it kind of hit home, that teaching is an extremely complicated, multitasking, multi-factor job that until you're doing it, people love to have an opinion on it and have no idea how to execute it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And just one thing I'll add, because I think you did a good job describing it. I think one thing that I took away too is how important it is for, as any teacher at any year, if you have teachers that maybe have attributes that are like skills that are really good in a particular area that you want to see in another teacher, go in and observe, right? Carve out some time, get a sub, have them go observe, and then have some time talking about that, not going in generally looking, but like, hey, watch how this teacher does this.
Yeah, specific.
And then have time for them to be able to talk. And if you, as an administrator, if you have to facilitate that, but I think that's a great practice that we should do more of, is getting in other classrooms.
Yeah, I think that is a really good idea. And again, like, I like the idea of it not being really generic,
right,
but saying like, hey, specifically, let's go in and look at how this person does this thing, and then let's all sit down and talk about it. I think that can be really helpful. Yeah, this is kind of another one of those things I tend to say, like, the pendulum swings really far, different directions. I think that this is one of them that we're probably way too far in the more like learning and theory academic side of it, and way not on the right side right now of giving practice and things like that. I know our state has toyed around over the last 15 years with doing it different ways as new teachers have come in. It's hard to find a sweet spot. It's hard to make sure that people are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing as new teachers and are qualified to be teachers, while also helping them grow in the right ways. It's hard. I mean, it's a hard thing to do. I do think that the practice is incredibly important. I think, Josh, you and I both, we didn't come up out of college and go straight into a room having just done student teaching for like a semester or something.
Right.
We were in different places watching a lot of people as paraprofessionals, and I know I learned an enormous amount, and really almost, this is not a stretch to say, almost everything I learned that was actually valuable, I learned by watching people.
Yeah.
And then getting to practice myself.
Right.
Not from something I learned in a class or read in a book.
Yeah.
It's from watching people.
I'll agree with that. Even as an IS, when I was pushing in classrooms, I was fortunate to be around so many talented teachers and was able to pull from what they were doing and things that I saw from just being in that classroom, and it was incredibly helpful.
Yeah, and I know it's not realistic for everybody to have that experience too. Yeah. I get that, but like I've said for a long time, the reason I'm any good at what I've been able to do in a lot of different ways is because I started off and I had 3 years of kind of floating around into 13 different rooms, 14 different rooms, something like that, watching how 13 different people did it, plus all their aides, right? So 26 people did it, learning what I thought was valuable and what was not valuable, and then got a chance to go do it and practice it myself as a teacher, then had another opportunity for another couple of years to then not be tied to a classroom and go back into rooms again in a different role and see how people did again, now with the knowledge of like how I had done it, and to think, oh my gosh, I would do this differently now. Or that is like an interesting thing to do. And then go back into a classroom again and practice it more. Just super valuable. I don't know that there's ever a way to do that with everybody. I understand that. But my goodness, what a valuable thing. And I've just been incredibly fortunate that was the experience that I had. Anyway, all that to say, I agree with the article. Man, get people in there practicing. That is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Over just teaching them something and expecting that to be enough.
Yeah.
All right, last article, Article 10. Writers using Chat GPT are strangers to their own thinking. Josh, you want to kind of kick us off on this one?
And maybe, and Katie, I know you got the best memory out of all three of us, but if I recall last year, there was an article in regards to tutoring from AI, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of, this is still, a big hot topic, but this, when, it's in the article, it's kind of a brief summary and there's links in there that you can get the bigger idea. But like, this makes sense to me. It kind of, like, students that are using AI or ChatGPT specifically in this article to write articles aren't able to recall the information that they just put on their paper, even comparison to folks that are using Google to research. I mean, and it was a drastic difference. It was something like 17%, or they were able to recall 17% of what they wrote, and those that looked up using, the internet to research and crafting their own paper, it was something like 86. They were able to recall 86% within 10 or 15 minutes after that they submitted it. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I would say we have a great fourth grade teacher who knows a lot about AI, and he's using it as the writing coach piece.
Yeah.
Which is helpful. Kids are still writing.
Yep.
They're getting that constant timely feedback. I think you have to use the tools in ways that make sense.
Yeah.
It's not to hit the easy button. That works for some of the things that we're doing in life, but if when we're teaching and learning, we have to build those neural pathways. We have to build that deep background knowledge, that schema with kids, and if we're just doing the shortcuts to get assignments done all the time, we're actually not teaching them.
Right.
We're using tool assistants. That's what we're teaching them, is
Yeah.
how to do the shortcuts. So I think AI can be powerful. I've seen it used very well in writing, but you need to use it the right way in the right context.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously agree with everything you guys are saying. I think that it's an interesting study, and I'd seen another one that didn't have to do with schools. It was just talking about using Chat GPT in general or AI in general to write something, and it may have even been the same study ultimately, but it was another article I read earlier last year, and it was the same idea. It's like if you use this to write something, which I guess isn't surprising because you're really not writing it that much.
Nope.
You're having a computer write it for you. And so the amount that you remember is almost nothing at all. Mm-hmm. And so you're not gaining anything from it. It's just literally checking a box that you got something done. And that's not, again, in regular life, are we going to utilize that sometimes? Yeah, absolutely. Is that what we should be doing while we're in school? No, obviously it's not the best way to do it. So I think that's important. All right. 10 articles. What do you think has made the most impact? Any of those that were like the biggest ones that stuck kind of out to you, or?
Well, I think for me, like, what all of these kind of, a theme that I kind of picked up on is it's not, learning improves not when we're adding more. So like more technology, more rigor, more interventions, but like when we're aligning how we're teaching students to the way that their brains work. And I think a lot of those hit on that it isn't, we need an additional 90 minutes of reading every week, or we need more this type of instruction. But really it's just, we need to make our instruction and how we teach fit the way that humans are supposed to learn and how our brains work. So I think a lot of those hit on that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine just was that AI continues to change education as it's changing our daily life and world. The technology keeps on impeding. And I think that we're going to continue to see research coming out about teacher prep time and student accessibility for learning. So hopefully it will start having some positive impacts in education, but I think we're going to continue to see research of the negative impacts as well.
Yeah. I think to me, the two that kind of stuck out that I ultimately, I guess really we're answering what do you want people to walk away knowing in some way right now, aren't we? But I do think that for me, it was the idea of breaks in there. I think one of the things I've thought of a lot as I've seen people work over the years is sometimes we'll be like, hey, now we're going to take a break with like this kid and we're actually going to play like a card game with him. We're going to do this thing with him. We're going to play this other kind of game. We're going to have them engage with somebody else. I'm saying those things are never good or that they're bad or that there's not a time for them. But there are a lot of kids that are constantly engaged with something, and they don't have very many times in life in general where they're just kind of checked out and letting their brain shut down, not like in a bad way, but like letting their brain rest.
Yeah.
Some of the kids that need breaks the most, if we then have them do a break where they're engaged with something, they're needing a break because they're already overloaded anyway. And then to have them go do something else that still requires something, they still have to give something, is maybe a lot. And so I think it's just interesting how we can see that there are times that it's like, hey, it's actually really good to let kids just kind of tone it down a notch and have longer recess. Or maybe in high school, we should start making sure that we're having those little breaks that are built into every block so that we're not just overwhelming kids and having them just constantly inundated and they're constantly trying to keep stuff in their head all the time. I don't know. I just think that it's really important. It's important to let kids throughout the course of a 7+ hour day check out every now and again.
Absolutely.
Pretty important. That's a lot to ask of kids. All right. As we kind of wrap up, and I will throw this one out there. Any predictions on what'll make the list next year?
I think regulation's going to continue. Brain science regulation. So I think things that we continue to talk about, window of tolerance, interoception, state-dependent functioning type concepts are going to continue to make the list because we know more about neuroscience.
I absolutely bet there'll be an article about AI.
Yeah, how can now? That's what I was going to say too. I mean, it's those are the things, and I think it's Isn't that interesting that those are the two things that we would think, and the two things that we keep seeing are how is technology impacting us, and how is like just the humanness of us.
Yeah.
How do we keep track of that too? That's really what it is. Like, how do we keep track of what we need as like organic humans?
Yep.
And how are we utilizing non-organic technology and how are those two things mixing? I'm telling you, it's really what the biggest deal is moving forward over the next good handful of years, I'm sure, in education and just in our world. All right. Well, as always, we really appreciate you guys joining us. Hopefully you found this one interesting. Hopefully it was fun to listen to and you were able to pick up on something that maybe you wanted to dive a little deeper into. We'll have the link to the article so you can always go and check that out yourself, see if we were wrong in any way, and let us know that. And as always, we just want you to share this with somebody. It would be a good one to talk about maybe in a group or to at least share one of the articles that you thought was interesting. Hey, if you would give us a review, that would be great. If you'd share the podcast with somebody, that'd be great. And as always, let's go out there and do the work.
Let's go do it.